The HOA had always been a problem, but I did my best to ignore it until the day I came home and found all my trees destroyed. No warning, no permission, no explanation. They had trespassed on my property and cut everything down. The HOA president, an arrogant woman who thinks she runs the entire neighborhood, smirked and told me it was done to maintain community standards. But what she didn't realize, I'm a federal judge, and she was about to learn what happens when you break the law in front of the wrong person. I had always known the HOA in my neighborhood was a nuisance, but they had never directly crossed me until that day. I had seen the complaints from my neighbors, the little dictatorship the HOA president imposed on the community. Yet I chose to stay out of it. Not because I was afraid, far from it, but because I knew that if she ever came after me, she'd be playing with fire. The problem with power-hungry people? They never know when to stop. I took immense pride in my property. My yard was lined with old, well-maintained trees, planted decades ago by generations before me. They weren't just trees. They were part of the land's identity, providing shade, beauty, and privacy. When I purchased my home, I made it clear. No HOA interference. I paid in full, cash. No need for financing, no permits required, and I never signed any contract binding me to their ridiculous rules. But that didn't stop this woman from trying. Since the day I moved in, she had found ways to poke and prod at me. First, there were the polite letters, little nudges suggesting that my property wasn't in line with community standards. Then came the violation notices claiming my trees didn't fit her vision of a perfect neighborhood. Like any reasonable person, I tossed those letters straight into the trash. Then one day, I came home from work and nearly didn't recognize my own house. Every single
tree was gone.
Not trimmed, not maintained, cut down, completely destroyed. The once lush, green barrier around my home had been reduced to a barren wasteland, tree stumps standing like gravestones for what never should have been lost. The scent of freshly cut wood lingered in the air, a sickening reminder of what had just happened. At first, I was in shock. This couldn't be real. Who would have the audacity to break onto private property and do something like this? But then, my eyes landed on a pickup truck parked across the street, with the HOA logo plastered on the side. It hit me like a freight train. The HOA had done this. They had trespassed onto my land and decided, without my consent, that my trees had no right to exist. A slow, burning fury built inside me. Not ordinary anger, no. This was a different kind of rage. The kind that chills your spine. The kind that comes when you realize someone has crossed a line and now they have to face the consequences. And who better to ensure those consequences than a federal judge? Standing there, staring at the wreckage of my property, I took a deep breath. I counted to 10, forcing myself to remain calm. I knew exactly how to destroy this woman, and it wouldn't be by screaming in the middle of the street.
No.
I would handle this the right way. But first, I wanted to hear it from her. Turning toward the HOA truck, I walked over. And there she was. The woman stepped out of the passenger seat, her arms crossed, a smug little smile on her face, like she had been waiting for my outburst. "Oh, I'm so glad you're here," she said, feigning sympathy. "We were just adjusting the aesthetics of the community. Your trees weren't up to HOA standards." I stared at her, silent, letting the moment stretch.
She wanted me to yell.
She wanted me to react emotionally, to make a scene so she could paint me as the problem. But instead, I smiled. "I see," I said calmly. "So, just so we're clear, you entered my property without permission and cut down my trees because you felt they didn't fit your standards?" She blinked a few times, caught off guard by my controlled demeanor. For a split second, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. But she quickly recovered, straightening her posture. "Not quite," she replied smoothly. "The HOA has authority over the aesthetics of the neighborhood, and your trees did not align with the established standard. Everything was done to maintain community harmony."
Ah.
Harmony. That word. The one people love to use when they're trying to control everything around them. I nodded slightly, as if considering her words. "Good. Then you won't mind if I take this to court." The shift in her expression was immediate. The smug smile vanished. Her confident posture stiffened, hands twitching slightly at her sides. "See, court?" she stammered, trying to force a laugh. "There's no need to escalate things like that. It was a simple HOA decision, within our rights." I stepped closer, locking eyes with her. "I'm a federal judge." Her face drained of color. I wished I had a camera to capture that exact moment. The way her confidence crumbled in an instant. The way her arms, once firmly crossed, now hung limply at her sides. "What?" she whispered. "And you," I continued, my voice unwavering, "committed trespassing. You damaged private property without authorization. This isn't just an HOA overreach, it's a crime." She opened her mouth as if to argue, but nothing came out. For the first time, she grasped the full scope of the disaster she had just walked into. I didn't say another word. I turned and walked into my house, already knowing exactly what was going to happen next. Because the truth was, I had already won. The HOA might have thought they ran this neighborhood, that they were untouchable, that they could do whatever they wanted. But what this woman didn't realize was that she had just picked a fight with the one person who could legally crush her without breaking a sweat. And that was exactly what I was about to do. The moment I had been waiting for finally arrived. Her phone rang. She picked it up, already looking tense, but within seconds, her expression shifted. The fear in her eyes grew, spreading like wildfire across her face. It didn't take long for everyone to realize what had happened. The HOA was officially under investigation. The government had frozen the association's funds. A lawsuit had been filed against the administration. Right then and there, she lost everything. Weeks later, the HOA was dissolved. The residents, now free from that nightmare, came together to elect a new leadership, this time, one that wouldn't abuse its power. And the woman? She vanished. Her house was put up for sale almost overnight, and according to rumors, she moved to the other side of the country, too ashamed to face the fallout. As for me, I stayed exactly where I was. Because, in the end, I never had to shout. I never had to threaten. I never had to lower myself to her level. I simply let the law do what it does best.